Barcelona 3, Elche 1. And is that Barcelona back to their very best? A lot of Barcelona fans will say absolutely not. But we have a lot to discuss on this video, so make sure you give us a big thumbs up. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on who was the outstanding player of the match for Barcelona. And don't forget to get us on that hype leaderboard and subscribe to the channel. But let's get into the game, people, because we have so much to discuss, and I'm going to start from the very first few minutes. Now, in the very first, I would say opening 5 to 6 minutes, it looked like Elche was actually progressing the ball really well, finding openings and finding spaces to exploit in that Barcelona whole setup. And Hansi Flick clearly hasn't learned in terms of delivery on the pitch and how to actually set up his players, because they looked like they were still pressing high. They were still deploying this high line for life, essentially. And starting Araujo was a bit different, a bit of a different take, obviously, on Barcelona's front. But it was from an error from Elche. The press was decent on that part. That was a positive from Barcelona. It seemed like their pressing from the beginning was actually quite decent. And with Balde obviously catching that misplaced pass and then driving into the space to lay off Lamine Yamal in a very easy position. And Lamine Yamal, in those positions, you know every single day of the week he is going to take them. That is facts. He obviously cut in on his left foot and delivered an absolute banger into the back of the goal. But then, obviously, with the second goal also, another mistake from Elche, kind of a slip. Fermin takes it away from, obviously, Elche and delivers a lovely placed pass into the back of the net for Ferran Torres. It's 2-0. And then after that, it seemed to fizzle out a bit because Elche were trying to get back into the game. You thought that Barcelona would be comfortable in those positions. But then Elche got their goal back. And it was really from that high line again. And it's going to be a consistent problem for Barcelona. Will Hansi Flick learn his lesson for future games? I don't think so. I think he's stubborn. I think he's too stubborn to learn the error of his ways. And we know it's only Elche. We know when we bank on Barcelona, essentially, as football fans in general, to beat Elche. And beat Elche at home convincingly. But that goal, before half-time, we'll say, literally took the sting out of the game. Until Fermin López, what a beautiful ball that was. That driven pass, well, it was a cross essentially, that driven pass to Rashford, and Rashford controlled it really well, took it away from the defender and absolutely smashed it into the roof of the net. And that is Barcelona in a nutshell today, because we saw at the end of the game, I think from about 70th minute onwards, that Elche were progressing, trying to come back into the game and getting a few shots away. And that was the story of the game. It was kind of a momentum shift, and Barcelona fans won't be pleased. There was a lot of instances where Barcelona weren't at their best, and there were a few instances where they looked like they could regain that. But across the entirety match, you expect Barcelona to do much better. They were sloppy with their passing, I have to say. They lost it so many times, countless times. Players like Lamine Yamal losing it, Casado losing it. Players all over the pitch, losing the ball at constant phases. Elche pressing also. And delivering a very, I wouldn't say hard-fought game, but a game nevertheless that Barcelona had to think about. We saw Elche at the beginning of the season go on this kind of mini unbeaten run, essentially, where they didn't lose any games, and then obviously they lost the game, and they obviously crumbles. But today, they proved that they're a very good team. And Real Madrid have them coming up also. And we have to just take them with a serious note, because they can play good football. Very good football. And with the goal they scored, it came from that high line again. Just a simple pass, literally bypassing the defensive line of Barcelona, and they hit it across. Simple goal. And it just allows Barcelona to go into the international break essentially after they play their next game against Celta Vigo away, which is going to be much more difficult than this game against Elche. Any team knows that Celta Vigo away is a tough game. And Barcelona are definitely going to find it tough because they're going away from home and they're going to have to realize, what do we need to do to really get the vote of confidence back from the Barcelona fans? Because they're not good at the moment. They're still looking poor. They're not winning games comfortable. Even if Real Madrid win only 1-0, I would say that the actual win itself is comfortable enough that we control possession and we don't allow any opportunities on the reverse end. Elche had several opportunities in good areas, very good areas, to maybe even claw their way back at the end of the game. But then you have obviously standout players today from Barcelona like Fermin López. He is an anomaly this season for Barcelona. He is on consistent form, this guy. And he's always going to be like that because he's got that technique. He's got that, I would say, source that really strives to bring Barcelona players together. And when he always carries the ball, it looks like something's going to happen. When he passes the ball, it looks like something's going to happen. And he was on the Elche player who slipped, gathered the ball, and then just run away with it, essentially. So this is how Barcelona are looking this season at the moment. They are not looking confident in themselves to play the ball correctly. That is the main problem. When you don't have possession in the right areas and you don't actually link up the play in the right areas, then you would have problems in every game this season in La Liga. And I've said before also that La Liga teams this season have been poor. They have been poor. And Barcelona are making it more difficult on themselves to win games. So Real Madrid fans, including myself, we're happy at this kind of occasion where Barcelona, sometimes they go ahead, they get their 2 goals like today, and then they just sink into a hole where they're really just looking like they're on the ascendancy in a match. Not on the ascendancy. They should always be on the ascendancy. Even Yamal lost the ball on several occasions. That's very unlike him. Very unlike him. And it just begs a question, what can Hansi Flick really do from here? There's a very long La Liga season. Is he going to be stubborn enough to keep playing the same system over and over and over again just to be stubborn? Because he knows what's happening in La Liga this year, especially when Barcelona are playing a lot of the teams. We found it out with Sevilla, we found it with Girona, Real Madrid the same, is that when Barcelona are playing these teams, they are finding weaknesses to exploit. Elche found many weaknesses today to exploit. I wouldn't say it was that easy for Elche to break them down, like, for example, like Sevilla did. But they have those weaknesses. And they just really need to rein it in a bit. Because Barcelona, they will be losing this league before you know it. Because they would have matches against some of the teams in the top flight of Spain and will struggle to even draw at times. That is how it's looking, because Real Madrid, obviously, with how they're playing and getting 30 points from a possible 33 from their very first 11 games, that is a sign of a true team that can win La Liga. I know Atletico Madrid, and when we played Atletico Madrid, that was just a very horrible game overall. But you can see Real Madrid against teams like Elche, teams like Sevilla, just beating them, destroying them. People will say, oh, it's only Valencia, but it's whatever you put in front of you. Come on. I know Barcelona beat Valencia 6-0 as well, but it doesn't really matter. On the grand scheme of things, when it comes to the end of the season, you're going to see Real Madrid conceding less, scoring, well, not the most amount of goals, but enough to win the league campaign, and getting what's most important at the end of the day, 3 points on the board. So with Real Madrid and Barcelona having probably one of their toughest ties yet in away games, away fixtures in terms of Celta Vigo and also Vallecano away, these 2 matches are going to be tough for both teams. But I would put money on Real Madrid winning comfortably rather than Barcelona, just by virtue of how they play. We're going to see those matches. We're going to see how comfortable it's going to be for Real Madrid to do that. It's always going to be a situation where Barcelona are looking lost in a match. They have periods, they have phases where they just look gone, like a blank has filled the screen and you don't know what Barcelona are going to do next. They don't have certain patterns of play. Like last year, they're looking completely different. The patterns of play last year, I would see the play from the middle, and you see where Pedri is missing in this. Pedri is missing badly. He is missing big time because he's the one that feeds the patterns of play. He's the one that passes it onto the wings to Rashford, obviously, to Lamine Yamal. And he's the one who free roams in the midfield, allows the whole team to literally develop. When Fermin López can do that, but not with the same effectiveness that Pedri can. Pedri is just a complete anomaly in that Barcelona squad. You would expect De Jong to kind of fill that role, but even he can't. So Pedri is the guy that they're missing in that kind of occasion. You saw today when you're lacking possession, Pedri is the guy that will take you out of that. He's the guy that will literally feed the players into the game and allow the overlapping wingers to come into the game as well. This is what Pedri does. He is literally the orchestrator. And without that orchestrator, your orchestra is looking bad. You're playing a few flat notes here. And that is how it is because Yamal is not looking the same. Rashford is always going to be Rashford and he's going to get his goals. And he took his goal very well today, I've got to admit. And with the whole system, it does not bode well for Hansi Flick. There's going to be times in matches and times in periods of matches against the biggest teams in Spain. I'm talking about Atletico Madrid here, Villarreal away, where you are going to have to play your best football. And guess what? Apart from a few matches, I would call Valencia, Getafe maybe, Newcastle, the last matches that you actually performed to a great level. That's the only matches this season you performed to a really good level. This match was not a good level. Believe me on that one. Barcelona fans would agree with me also. Can you really get out of this slump where you're not performing to the best and try and go on a dominating period where you just absolutely destroy teams left, right, and centre? That's what Barcelona did last year. That's what they did. And that's how they really clawed the gap to Real Madrid when Real Madrid were ahead by 8 points at one stage. But this time, Real Madrid have Xabi Alonso. You can see the games being controlled. Literally, Real Madrid, like puppet masters on the pitch, controlling games with shoestrings at the end because they know that they can just easily dominate a team left, right, and centre by passing the ball, moving it around, getting into the spaces, getting into those pockets behind the midfield, literally pressing with good intent as well. And that's how Real Madrid are performing. But Barcelona, you are nowhere near the level that you were last year. You have got to seriously ask questions of yourself. You've got to ask questions of Hansi Flick. Is he the right man to lead you forward this season? Because I could see Barcelona getting lost in the smoke completely. I could see Copa del Rey defeats happening. I could see Super Cup defeats happening. I could see the La Liga not being won by Barcelona because Real Madrid are just too good this season. We are. And that is factual. People can say there was only 2-1 in El Clasico. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's the 3 points. That's it. There's nothing more to football than 3 points. In knockout phases of competitions, it's completely different. But I would back Real Madrid to beat Barcelona in the Champions League if we were to meet in the knockout phases. I would. Because we just look control. We look like we can always harm you. Arsene Wenger on the TV said that Barcelona look destroyed and lost without Inigo Martinez. That is the guy. There's lacks maturity in the defense. It lacks big maturity. And you saw today when Elche won certain areas, it looks like they could score. They could. I know it was maybe at the end of the game or towards the end of the first half, but they always looked like they could pose a threat. And when they pose threats, Barcelona have to retract back and they have to sit in their defensive shape and hope for the best. They're not really looking comfortable in defense. If you compare it to Real Madrid look comfortable in defensive areas. They do. It's factual because you have Dean Howson, Militao, Valverde and Carreras. That is a very strong back four. But when you're looking at your back four, including obviously Raul who played today, it still doesn't look the same as last year. There's always going to be difficulties for Barcelona to defend very quick transitional play, like for example against Sevilla, like Girona, like today against Elche on certain occasions. That is what you struggle with. And a lot of teams in Spain play like that. You can expect Villarreal to play like that. You can expect Real Betis to play like that. You can expect even Bilbao, how poor they are this season, to play like that. That is how Spain, a lot of the teams play on transition, and Barcelona are going to struggle big time with it. They're not going to have success. You expect Barcelona to have success against these teams, it's not going to happen. Factual, and Real Madrid are going to keep on running away with it and keep on getting victories because I don't see Real Madrid drawing too many games either. They go for the win or they will get a slight narrow defeat. That's what I'm thinking. I think the draws are not going to stack up for Real Madrid. I have to be honest here. And Barcelona, it looks like you get a draw too, get a defeat here or two as well because you're not looking the same. And a lot of Barcelona fans would agree with me. If you're objective enough, you would agree that Barcelona are nowhere near the level to win La Liga. Nowhere near. I can say that because I'm looking at Barcelona. You have been poor. You can take injuries into account and you can take that into account. But at the end of the day, you are not going anywhere because of one man, Hansi Flick. First of all, the injuries themselves. When you have injuries on the training ground and you have players who play for endless amounts of matches, they're going to get injured. You have to give them a rest. But who can really replace Pedri? Who? Not one singular player on that Barcelona bench is good enough to replace Pedri. But if Bellingham was out, I would expect Camavinga, Tchouameni, you can expect Arda to play. These players will have a skill set that won't replicate what Bellingham does, but can play to a very high standard and can make the team work as well. Because you have other players as well, like Vinny and Mbappe, who will get you the goals. Even though Vinny hasn't been in amazing goal-scoring form, he's playing really well, especially as of recent. Rashford is playing really well as well, but Yamal isn't. Yamal is your outstanding player. He's your star player. He's the one with a big star on top of his head that everybody wants to pass to because they think he's going to do something. And today he got his goal. Well done. But apart from that, what did Yamal do? In actuality, let's just call it as it is. Because one goal is great, but you would expect Yamal to really start feeding the players through, but it's Fermin López who's doing that. That's the player that was outstanding today for Barcelona. He was the one that was not looking like he was going to lose the ball at any time because of his skill set, his technique on the ball. But Yamal, to lose the ball on countless times is a big problem. Trust me on this one. A very big problem. Obviously, towards the end of the game as well, he was feeding different passes as well to Lewandowski. Lewandowski not really able to turn and shoot. But ultimately, Yamal is not the same player. Ferran Torres is not the same player. De Jong is not the same player. Pedri is out. The whole defense is not the same. Nowhere even near the same to compete with last year's performance of Barcelona, where they were absolutely whitewashing teams left, right and centre. That's what you're expecting from Barcelona because of the mannerism that they play. I think Real Madrid are more fluid in attack. I think they're more fluid in defence. I think they're more fluid in the midfield. As currently as it stands. Because of Alonso. But Hansi Flick is not doing anything to cater towards Barcelona. There's a lot of worries that Barcelona have, and they're facing it right now. And if they don't get out of this, they are going to go into an eternal, deep, dark hole, and they're not going to be able to get out of it. Because you can see Real Madrid potentially, at the end of Christmas, going maybe 8, maybe 11 points clear of Barcelona. Don't forget that you have Betis coming away this year. That in itself is an absolute ludicrous match, and I can see Barcelona losing that definitely. So many matches here that Barcelona are going to have problems with, and La Liga this year is not for Barcelona. Let me tell you that. Don't forget to like this video, comment down below, let me know your thoughts. And yeah, all I can say is a la Madrid y nada más, and we'll see you next time on another video. Take care, people. Adios.